Jeez.
Is that better?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't.
Oh, and we lost Alex. There's Alex.
Oh, shit.
How's everybody doing?
I'm doing all right.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we're just getting ready to get things started, everybody. And I guess while we're prepping everything for the podcast, let's go ahead and do a little bit of a pre-show. So, 2 stories roughly that did not make the agenda tonight, and some for good reasons, some for not. But let's see. So, the first story that people apparently wanted us to talk about, because apparently we've talked so much about it, is the canceling of Roseanne. And I do not want to brush this too long, because the bottom line is, here's my opinion on the reboot of Roseanne. I didn't care. I didn't like Roseanne as a kid. I didn't like Roseanne as a teenager. And it's not for any particular reason or anything like that. Like, before people start asking, oh, you just didn't like, John Goodman or Roseanne Barr. Actually, for the record, I love John Goodman. But I just didn't like it. So it's canceling because of Roseanne's stupid behavior on Twitter, whether it was because of Ambien or not. I really could care less. So that's kind of my viewpoint on the matter. I don't know why you guys wanted us to talk about it, because this is a sitcom, but okay.
Yeah, and honestly, the only thing that really surprised me was just the fact that how quick it was canceled. But all that really shows is that ABC was looking for, they were gunning for it. It was pretty much a case of all they needed was a reason. Roseanne gave them the reason, and then it was given Das Boot.
I don't even think, let's just say for the sake of argument, the Ambien thing is legit. Then at that point, you could say Roseanne didn't give them the argument. They were just looking for the first flag they could possibly find, and they got one. Okay? I'm not saying it's good or bad, because, again, I didn't have a horse in this race. I didn't care. In fact, I got into arguments all year with my sister, who loves Roseanne and loves that the reboot's happening, and said, F the reboot.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, just looking at it, because I didn't even watch it, and what a lot of people think of, it was brought by Ambien. Well, given the way drugs like Ambien work, it's not gonna like amplify anything that isn't already there. So blaming it on Ambien doesn't really work here.
And the other problem that I have with the Ambien argument, and this is kind of where I'm going to leave things, unless Alex wants to chime in here, is that it's not like Roseanne hasn't had issues in the past, okay? I can still remember horrendous statements she made 10 years ago, horrendous statements she made 15 years ago, and horrendous statements she made 20 years ago, okay?
Lest we forget the infamous national anthem incident.
Or the one that comes to my mind is, I can't remember what talk show she was on, but she basically condoned that if nobody, and this was around Obama time, so like if anybody doesn't agree with Obama, then they should basically be sent to the equivalent of a concentration camp and be brainwashed. Okay.
Kind of doubting that's real.
To the internet.
I don't even care. Roseanne
does care. Don't fucking spread false bullshit.
She does it plenty for me, Alex. Get off me.
You don't have to fan the flames. That's what I'm getting at.
I'm not fanning the flames. She's doing it for me.
That's not the...
All right. All
Anyway.
right. Calm down. Everyone take a deep breath. Remember the session. Remember the session.
That's my viewpoint on the matter. Is I don't care. I didn't have a horse in this race.
Yeah, I guess I can say I don't care too much either because I'm not a huge Roseanne fan. I'll watch the reruns from time to time when they're on, but I'm not a huge fan of it. So
yeah,
all I can really say out of this is Twitter was a mistake.
Yeah,
we're getting to that now. I think Twitter was a mistake about 2 months after its inception.
Let's get the Miyazaki meme and replace anime was a mistake with Twitter was a mistake.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, I'll at least compliment the fact that through later sitcoms, I got to see acting from Laurie Metcalf and a few of the sitcom or the stars that came out of Roseanne. And I love John Goodman. Okay, like. Even I'll admit to a lot of people that if there's one thing to take away from the crappy live action Flintstones movie, it is John Goodman's performance. It's probably one of the better things out of it. And he actually plays really, really well off of Rick Moranis. That's a feat in and of itself. But the rest of it is just, I don't care. The second thing that we have for the pre-show is, so apparently the internet has not been solemn in the passing of Total Biscuit. The one story that we actually were able to track down is a BioWare dev mocking the death of Total Biscuit. And since then, you guys have all sent to me, apparently, and this is going to culminate really well with the whole Twitter was a mistake thing, is apparently James Romine has come out and said some pretty nasty things about Total Biscuit. EA devs have EA, DICE, I think Ubisoft devs are come out saying pretty nasty things about Total Biscuit. The one I couldn't confirm was apparently Alex Mauer said something nasty about Total Biscuit. Couldn't find that one. And I couldn't find the James Romine one too.
Well, yeah. But it's just funny with all the rumors, like, gee, it's almost like all the people complaining are the ones who, were actually kind of douchebag game developers.
Yeah.
How about that?
I know. It's almost like there's a pattern. And the reason that I actually found out about the James Romine and Alex Mauer one is just like, oh, you're going to join the James Romine and Alex Mauer band camp because people have decided this week that I was disrespectful. And I would actually say that compared to what those guys were saying, I didn't say too many disrespectful things about Total Biscuit. I just stated my opinion, which is what Total Biscuit would have done in my stead. So the bottom line is if you want to blame me for stuff, well, I wasn't the biggest shit talker there.
Yeah, it's
more, once again, I reiterate, Twitter was a mistake, but I don't know how one can, span an entire thread of Twitter. I mean, this isn't just one tweet, right? This is like 20 new posts after one.
And these are 20 among thousands of people sending stuff out to Total Biscuit. Okay. Right. 20 amongst thousands.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, how do you reply one after the other, because Twitter's all short bursts and just not for one inkling of a second think maybe I'm good. Pushing my luck here. Maybe I'm going a little too far. Maybe I'm spitting on a grave of somebody who I don't know personally. It's just it's amazing people can do that to me.
I mean, in the case of James Romine, I mean, if anybody actually came out against him, I think his default answer would have been to sue them for $10 million. And in the case of Alex Mauer, she'd find out if you were a YouTuber and DMCA you for no reason. We're talking about people who couldn't actually take an insult themselves, giving insults to a dead guy.
Mm.
It's almost like they did it because he couldn't fight back.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
So there you go. And if a few people or a few listeners have actually come out saying, would you be willing to say more nice things about Total Biscuit? Unfortunately, no. The stuff that I said last week is about as nice as I can go, guys.
And honestly, there's not much else we can really add that we haven't said already. So there's nothing really new. And honestly, the story itself got resolved so quickly within BioWare that it's, again, not really an issue. Because BioWare did the smart thing of, hey, this person does not reflect our opinions of the company as a whole. He's no
that's right.
He's no longer with us.
BioWare disavowed theirs. I'm not sure about the DICE dude or the Ubisoft guy. I don't know if they've been disavowed yet, but
well, yeah. Given that we weren't able to find much confirmation, it's very much a case of it's a non-story. It's just dicks on Twitter, or as Alex pretty much says it, Twitter was a mistake. We need to make that a T-shirt. Just have Alex's face with the line "Twitter was a mistake." Completely lit like in the Miyazaki style.
I have another idea for it, but I'll talk to you guys after the podcast about it. But yeah, there you go. That's the pre-show. I don't know why you guys wanted us to talk about Roseanne. We haven't even shown any indication that we're fans or anything like that.
Did we? I can't remember. Did we ever talk about the revival when the revival was first announced?
No, not really. We just
I didn't think so. I couldn't remember.
I think one of you guys brought up the story, and no offense to you, because I love you dearly, I intentionally ignored it because I'm not reporting on Roseanne.
Yeah, I don't think it was that I think what it was is that we may have brought it up in relation to like another reboot that got announced because we were talking about how there were so many freaking reboots coming out.
You know when we did it? Clarissa.
Right.
Clarissa was when we did it.
Yep, because we're in the era of reboots, apparently.
Yeah, because now it's coming to me. And I remember being especially quiet on the matter. Let me put it this way to a lot of people. When I try to explain to people why I have a hatred for sitcoms, one of my first usual suspects of accusation that I bring up is Roseanne. Okay, if Roseanne is not that particular series, then I go to my usuals of I didn't entirely like Full House. I didn't entirely like Family Matters. I don't entirely like Fresh Prince. I'm not a sitcom fan.
Oh, yeah.
Although strangely in recent years I've become one. Weirdly.
Yeah. And speaking as someone who grew up with sitcoms and actually enjoyed the genre for a while before I noticed so many patterns and got sick of it, even I didn't like Roseanne because I just didn't think it was that funny. And again, unlike you, I like John Goodman as an actor. He's given some good performances. I just didn't like the show. I mean, honestly, for people who are wondering.
And again, I love Laurie Metcalf and what she's been able to do on shows that she's shown up on, specifically Big Bang Theory. She's hilarious when they bring her on there. And also, I can't remember the daughter who had an active role on Big Bang Theory. Sarah Gilbert, who had amazing fights with Sheldon Cooper on the series. And it's like, it's great. Like, I love them. I can't stand Roseanne.
Yeah, and honestly, and this, again, I liked sitcoms. I used to watch that 70s show religiously as a kid. So even as a fan of the genre, I didn't particularly care for the show.
And that 70s show, I actually, I knocked it as a kid, but as an adult, as a kid, I couldn't stand it. But as an adult, I find it tolerable. Its jokes are actually a little bit funnier to me. I find the dad a little bit more easier to digest, like that. But as a kid, animation was my focus. So if you showing me anything real life just wasn't going to work, guys.
Yeah. For me, I was the opposite because we never had cable growing up. So for me, it was basically the sitcoms or nothing. And so that's what I grew up on. Although I'm in the opposite camp where as an adult, I can't really enjoy that 70s show anymore. And not because of the writing itself. It's just because after I learned that the cast members are actually awful people, it's a case of I don't want to support the show anymore. Like Danny Masterson, especially. He is an awful human being. He played Hyde.
Okay, all right. Is he the one that got the trash talking show on MTV? Because Ashton got the prank show, but then there was another one that got a Yo Mama joke show on MTV.
Well, I'm not so sure about that.
Was he the foreign exchange student?
No, that's Wilmer Valderrama.
Valderrama, he's the one that got that.
Yeah, I don't know about him. I just know that Danny Masterson is a serial rapist, and I can't enjoy the show anymore because it's, knowing that now, I'm just like, I can't watch it anymore. I can't.
Exactly. And since we therefore end the pre-show on serial rape, because that's the best way to be able to end it.
Because the Wheaties say no, but they don't listen.
All right, let's go ahead and get things started tonight.
All right, sound speed.
Of course, my dog has to be barking right now, but rolling.
Of course she does. What are you talking about? Okay, really quick, I gotta download the agenda because for some reason it didn't go into my drive. And then we'll get things started. Too many Christmas. And
there's this. Damn it.
Go take care of her. You got a minute.
I think she's settling down, but I know there's been a solicitor wandering the neighborhood all evening, so
And it's driving her nuts.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so now that I've got that, okay. Everybody's ready to go?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So 3, 2, 1. Okay. I love the. Was there a delayed clap in there?
Might have been. Like I
Okay.
said,
It might have been. It got.
laggy tonight.
It's all right.
Yeah, and it lagged on my end as well.
Yeah. Oh well. We'll make it work as best as we can. Okay, just gotta make sure everything essential is brought up. Welcome everybody to another awesome episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in geek for Friday night. I was about to say Sunday night. That's not right. Friday night, June 1st, 2018. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's had an awesome week as we have literally a week and a half left before E3 2018. The one thing in July you can get excited for, aside from Jurassic World, where the dinosaurs will, in fact, confirmed win. And Jeff Goldblum will come back as a dinosaur. I'm just saying for the record. And with me, of course, is my fellow panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow critics, fellow geeks, fellow awesome guys in general. If you guys aren't following their content, what the F is wrong with you guys? And let's go ahead and start things off with the Shadow Blazer himself, whose own dog has risen up in protest at his very performance on this podcast tonight. Alex, how are you doing?
Actually, I got a little nice surprise in the mail. A while ago, I backed a little Kickstarter. Nothing too fancy, but it's to get these, as you can see, darling little anime acrylic badges that you can wear like on a lanyard. And in this case, I went with Mio. So it's Mio Chibified, and it's so cute. So happy that these finally came. Because I think I backed the Kickstarter, I don't know, like last year, maybe 2 years ago. Finally, they came out, got the little surprise in the mail today. So say hello to, and this one's even cuter. Say hello to Chibi Mio-chan, everybody.
To call badgers. Told you this.
Okay.
We've been doing Let's Plays for so many years. I've told you. It's badgers, not badges.
Badgers. All right.
Get it right, noob. Anyway, and then we're also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, of From the Shelf, Martial March, Monster Clash, Rhapsody in Cinema, and whatever else he decides to work on, because every time this guy films anything, it is magic. Romney, how you doing?
Well, doing all right now that I've recovered. I mean, for some of you who may have seen on Twitter, this week I managed to finish watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, and then watched the movie End of Evangelion.
Okay, can everybody join me for 5 seconds of just let's give Romney a hug. Let's just give Romney a hug. Okay.
Congratulations.
Pat you on the back. Pat you on the back. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm sorry. Your brain will be fixed in like 3 minutes. It's okay. All right.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you've had your moment.
Give it time. It'll reboot.
Reboot is a strong word. It'll
I
be
guess
forever changed is a better one.
I guess the better way to say is that it'll rebuild.
Yes, in fact, it will rebuild. I can't even think of the punctuation that he uses for that. But yeah, it will rebuild. And of course, we're taking on the week's events in Geek. And like I said, it's a week and a half before E3. So we actually do have some stuff to talk about with E3, including a factor that is just driving me nuts, because just when I thought E3 was going to start up on Saturday morning, now there's talk that it might actually start up Friday or even Thursday night the previous week. Come on, E3. Don't kill me on this matter. But of course, we do have some week's events in Geek to go into. And the first thing that we need to talk about, because enough of you guys tried to let me know about the situation, is not only were games like Honey Pop under fire from Valve, but Valve had another scandal right on its heels with a game by the name of Active Shooter. And Active Shooter is basically, the name doesn't necessarily allude to the fact of what it is, but it's basically a school shooting simulator. Okay. And it very much looks like one of those, I I think the coin term is asset flips, where basically somebody took a kit from another game and just basically retooled it to be a school's environment instead of a war zone. And Valve came under fire for this being a controversial game on their store. Now, that game is no longer on the store. We should point that out right here and now. And one of the reasons that you guys sent out because of this reason is the reason that it got removed isn't entirely it. So thankfully we have Sid Alpha on YouTube who corrected this, but the initial speculation was that it was, we haven't really covered this guy, but he's a known asset flipper on the Steam community called by the name of Eta Berdiev. He's had companies on the Steam community such as BC Interactive. The other ones are escaping me right now, but what was that?
Like Elusive Team, and then the ones that published Active Shooter were called Revived Games, and the publisher was called Acid.
And before BC Interactive, he'd already been banned from the Steam store. BC Interactive was technically his second banning, and this Acid one would have been his third. Here's the thing that a lot of people didn't necessarily get right, and special thanks to Sid Alpha for going through this. Technically, Acid isn't entirely owned by him. It's actually under another guy's name. However, the banking information, the financials that support Acid are Eta Berdiev's. So technically he's a partner, not necessarily the driving force, because we have confirmed that there was another guy. Like, he's a real person, not another fake account that is being made by an asset flipper. He's a real guy. So they partnered, and it doesn't matter anymore because it's removed. Okay. But this company Acid is the one responsible for the active shooter simulator that we don't have to care about anymore because Steam has promptly removed it. Go Steam. Not necessarily that Steam pulled the trigger that I said they should have pulled a couple. I think what was it, 2 weeks ago, that I think they should have pulled with the whole honeypop thing. They didn't pull that. They just basically said, "Oh, we've dealt with this guy before, and we'll take him off the Steam store."
The representative from Valve is even quoted as calling him a troll who has a history of customer abuse, publishing copyrighted material, and user review manipulation. So basically, he's the kind of guy that Valve does not want anywhere near Steam. And again, they were given Das Boot.
And this was the guy that was providing the financial information. So you can only imagine that his partner, if he agreed and partnered up with this guy, is probably of similar ilk. So
that's implying that the partner actually exists.
Yeah, because we have a little bit of evidence saying it might be a physical person, but we're not entirely sure. So take of that what you will. It doesn't matter. This game is no longer available, but enough of you guys wanted to let us know about it and how disgusting it was. And guys, I completely agree with you. If that game was on the Steam storefront and was doing well, then I'm there with you. It's a deplorable game. Do I think it deserves to be taken off the Steam front? That's Valve's call. I can already tell you just one simple thing. I ain't buying it.
Yeah.
And I'm not supporting it.
And the sad thing is, and I'm probably going to be the controversial voice tonight on this story, is that this is an idea that I think could be done as a game. Now, I know what a lot of people think, where you play as a school shooter? No. Maybe go kind of the Battlefield Hardline route. Well, aside from not being made by a company that is awful, but kind of going the route of
also not cops and robbers.
And also actually patched to the point where you can actually play it. But the point being is that a situation like this, creating a game where maybe you're the SWAT team or you're a cop that simulates this sort of scenario, it's something that if given the right hands, like give it to the people behind Spec Ops The Line, and you could probably get something pretty good with it. And that's the sad thing, is that you've got crap bags like this who are doing it strictly for the shock value, but I see potential in tackling the issue of school shootings through games, and not in the Jack Thompson, make the game industry target themselves. Like, no, let's actually use the interactive media of gaming to actually explore this issue. I mean, again, Spec Up The Line did a really good job of this when it came to the notion of war games. And so if you gave it to people like that, you could probably get something pretty freaking powerful.
So here's I'm going to agree and disagree with you, Romney. And here's where I agree with you. Yes, this actually could work as a premise. Do I see actual game companies trying to do it? Yes. Alex looks like he's getting worried on the camera. Don't worry. I think it's a good idea on premise. Do I see it happening like a month from now, 2 months from now, right now? No. And the only reason I don't see that is because game companies have to be PR companies too, and that it would be a hot button issue for them. So this would be one of those things. This would be one of those things where those game companies would take it on, but they do so, let's just say 7.5 months to a year. Okay?
Yeah, this would definitely have to be like, if you're going to do it and do it right, this would be something that you would want to take your time evaluating, where you would not just in terms of mechanics, you would want to interview police officers, SWAT agents. You'd want to interview even civilians who lived through it, just to make sure you're communicating the experience correctly.
Yes.
I mean, the closest example we got to that was the canceled 6 Days in Fallujah, which was basically a bunch of soldiers saying, hey, this was kind of a really important battle in the Middle East. We should actually make something about this because we feel it's important. And so if they actually took the time to do the research, yeah, because I'm with you. There's no way this is going to come out like even this year. I'd give it like a good 2 or 3 years of development time so that you can do your research and make sure that you've actually got something solid before presenting it to the public. Because if you're not doing it right, it's going to backfire and backfire hard.
It is. And the other thing too is, I mean, you brought up Witness stuff, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, even in the Call of Duty games, even the Battlefield games, they go to experts. They bring in military guys to be able to help them kind of design the maps, design the weapons, and all that stuff. So they probably want to be able to also talk to authorities on the matter, not just scholars who research these kinds of things and how they start, but also like cops who were there and be able to help try to figure that part out of it. Even probably even talk to the SWAT team that went to the various school shootings. I wouldn't even be surprised if they went as far back as like Columbine, just to like get that first incident. But do I see that coming out right here now? No. I think that there's enough of a PR team behind the main shooter companies that they'd probably wait 7.5 months to a year.
Yeah.
And at that point, they still handle it very delicately, very soft, and it probably would just be like a DLC pack is what would happen.
Like either as a DLC pack or maybe even not even go the shooter route, but maybe just go kind of like the choose your own adventure, kind of like, I'm trying to remember, I'm thinking of the game. It's the one that Square Enix put out, that Brinton's Life is Strange. That's the one.
Life is Strange. Or the other company that actually just barely came to my mind, Bethesda might actually tackle it. They've done games like Fallout where you have like a huge map and a lot of possibilities. So that might actually be another way to go about. A lot of people might be thinking just Activision or just EA. No, I think Bethesda could do this too. Bethesda did Prey. Bethesda did the Fallout games. They could do shooters.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially considering that they own id Software, it's a case of, hey, that's kind of where Columbine had its ties, was because of the infamous Doom mods, and so it actually would bring it kind of full circle.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have id work on it, but I think id is invested in Rage 2, and that's where they want them. But I see your point. Alex, what's your take on the whole active shooter situation?
This really falls on Steam. This is their fault. They don't have any quality control. Their store, it's stupidly easy to get into. Even when they got rid of Greenlight, it's still too easy for stupid asset flippers like this to get in. And that's really what this game was. Everybody, of course, who wants to defend this guy or wants to defend the concept, well, context, nuance is king.
Well, I don't think there's a concept to defend here. This guy was just flipping assets here.
Exactly, that's my point. But people are, if you can believe it, right? Or some people like to, compare, like, what about this shooter where you played this? But it's like, this is not the same thing. This is not an apples to apples comparison here. This is an asset flip. This is something a guy threw on the Steam store to knowing what's going on right now to capitalize on some hype. And
I think the hatred comparisons are pretty accurate. The only reason I would say it's not is because different perspectives. But I see your point.
Yeah, the hatred thing, at least I don't know about that, but I really think it's the guy who quickly threw something together to capitalize on some media hype right now, knowing it's gonna get buzz, controversy, and attention, and drive sales because of all the people who want to be all the rebel rousers and and stick it to Steam, and well, that's really Steam's own fault there because of their lack of quality control on their store.
Well, okay. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but you're already inferring that there is quality control on Steam, and that would be where my argument is that there really isn't.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying because Steam lacks any kind of quality control.
I mean, they have a quality control team. It's just very, very lax. So
I'm not even convinced they have one, and that's why games like these.
The definition that I've heard is that they had the Blizzard equivalent of like 20 years ago, which is like you had 2 guys, and so at that point you have a quality control team, but not one to the caliber that you need for a platform like that. And so at that point, yeah, they do have one, but I agree with you. It's extremely lax, and to say that I would actually even debate, like, considering the praise that we gave to Steam Direct earlier this year, pessimistic praise that we gave to Steam Direct this year, it just hasn't panned out. I really don't, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I don't see the difference between it and Greenlight right now. I really don't.
I mean, right now it's looking to be not much different than Greenlight, and it looks to be nothing more than Steam's unappealing bandage to their problem.
Yeah.
And, there's so many like little simple things I think they could probably do to start weeding this crap out, but they just don't want to do it.
Nope.
No, not really. So I think that pretty much kind of covers our final thoughts on this particular one, because it's not like this is an ongoing story, guys. This has been resolved. This is taken care of. Steam has already banned the guy. It's already a guy that they've dealt with before. So, I mean, they've pretty much handled this. Was it an atrocious game? Yes. But I mean, my argument to all of you is, yes, you should be outraged, but here's the other thing you shouldn't do. Don't give them the platform. Just don't vote with your dollar. Don't buy the game, and don't, like, the one thing that actually kind of bothered me with some people on Twitter, they put trailers up on this thing. You gave this guy way too much of a platform at that point. Like, you should have just said, oh, by the way, if you see this active shooter thing, you really shouldn't just support. You should just not support it, kind of thing. But that's just my point of view on the matter. The trailer shouldn't have been shown of this thing. There shouldn't have been footage. There shouldn't have been a need for Sid Alpha, or even if Total Biscuit were around, for any of them to cover this.
I get that argument, but at the end of the day, this is still Valve's area of responsibility. This should not have gone up on Valve's store because, again, like I say, Valve and Steam just lack any kind of quality control and proper screening techniques for the stuff that goes on their store. You want to run a business, well, you still need to represent yourself in a proper fashion. And if you're going to sell product, you need to have that quality. You need to make sure your product is quality. It's the same thing as if you work in a brick and mortar retail store.
Here's the problem with your argument, though, Alex. If you can justify that this doesn't deserve a platform, there are others who would disagree with you on whether or not Yandere Simulator, Honey Pop, all of that stuff deserve a platform. And I would technically go on to that angle of, yeah, they all don't. Steam should not be allowing any of them.
Yeah, and to counter kind of that point, I think the point Alex is trying to make, it's not so much that they're saying some is allowed or isn't, it's the fact that they're doing nothing either way. They have not made a clear, definitive statement about what they will and won't allow on the platform. They keep changing their mind, and that's half the problem.
Yeah, again, this is just another situation where they need to literally just make up their mind. Just either pull the trigger or don't. I don't care. But a decision needs to be made, and they need to stick with it. Moving on into the next story. Now, I'm actually going to cut things into an entertainment story just because there's not a whole lot of information that we have for this, and it's literally breaking. It broke today. So I'm going to go a little bit of hopscotch than more or less what I usually do, and cover this story because it's breaking and there's not a whole lot of information to go off of as of right now. So going into the entertainment portion, the other story that we have tonight is we just barely got this as a breaking story. Apparently, Stan Lee's been having some situations at home as he's had a guy kind of coming around the house asking for money, and they've been keeping track of the guy for, from what I can gather, about 2 or 3 days now. He's come by asking for money, and it got so bad that I think it was last night at about 7:30 p.m. Two armed, actually, no, this is when the police were called. 2 armed men, including one of them being the guy that they'd seen, basically came in and demanded money from Stan Lee. So we were already dealing with the whole Stan Lee situation of Guardians and whatnot. Not Guardians of the Galaxy, as legal Guardians were having some issues. And this then happens where the police had to be called and detained the 2 armed men from Stan Lee's home. So, Jiminy Christmas. Poor Lee. He's just having a bad year this year because he's 95 years old. He's got 2 guys coming over demanding money. And a lot of people are connecting it to the lawsuit that he has going towards, I think it's PAL Comics, or...
Like, I know it was against one of his former business partners, is that he's specifically suing because of, I think, of a breach of contract.
Yeah, and I can't remember the company's name. I think it's like PAL Comics or something like that, where he was having a financial disagreement with them, and that was creating issues, so much so that I guess they decided to send armed guys to come and collect money. Again, the reason that I'm being so vague on this, guys, is that the story is not that old, and we don't have a lot of details from the investigation that is ongoing right now from the police. We don't know all of the details, and people are being kind of secretive about it. But yeah, this actually happened. 2 armed guys came to Stan Lee's house demanding money. And thankfully, the police were able to detain them. But see, this is a crappy year for Stan Lee. I think we can all agree on this one. Bottom line. Alex, where are you standing on it?
I really don't have much to say, but you just need someone, I think, in the family or an estate manager or somebody to really kind of take care of him, move there. I don't know. It's just, the man's in his 90s. It can't be easy for him. You know, he's just having too many problems. He needs somebody to really, I hope somebody out there is willing to watch out for him and not take advantage of him.
I'm starting to become of the opinion that maybe, you know, of all the celebrities that actually offered their homes, maybe we ought to take up one of them. Like, go talk to Kevin Smith and see if he can fill out a room where Stan can stay for a month or 2 or something. Because it's getting kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, again, this has definitely been a bad year for Stan. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but it's sadly not uncommon with people trying to shake down celebrities for money for various reasons. I mean, even looking at the comments of the story, which is reported from the Daily Mail, people are even making jokes about this sort of thing, which it's sad that it's got to that point, but it's just, damn. That's all I have to say. It's just, damn.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, again, just makes me really sad that, considering how much he's done for the community at large and how he continues to dedicate himself to, you know, doing these cameos and whatnot, that he's been having so many problems this year. And one of which, you know, one of the things he's had a problem with is a lot of the people going after his own daughter in the whole legal guardian issue. And because the suspected problem was that not only was company representatives, but his own daughter were kind of abusing him, and he doesn't agree with that. What was the other thing too? Like, there
was the whole like sample of his blood being stolen for signing stuff.
And apparently after the separation, we didn't cover this, but apparently his Facebook and his Instagram got hacked. And so he can't get access to them. So he's basically had to tell everybody, you know, if you want to follow Stan Lee, you got to follow him on Twitter, because, you know, he's 95 years old. He just can't manage all those social media accounts. And so at that point, it's probably easier for him to just manage the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I would agree with that. Like, you know, pick one, in this case, Twitter, and just run with it. And I guess at this point, yeah, I can already tell you guys my thoughts and prayers are going for him. I hope the situation gets resolved, even if it means that you got to shack up with Kevin Smith for a while. You know, like, if that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do. But hopefully we don't get any more armed men coming to your house. That sucks. I'm kind of surprised the story isn't Stanley dies of a heart attack from a home robbery. Because, like, if I was 95 years old and I saw 2 armed guys coming into my house demanding money, yeah, that'd probably be my reaction.
Yeah.
Jiminy Christmas. Although I guess would Kevin Smith work? Because Kevin Smith's gone full vegan ever since. And I think Stan's still a meat and potatoes guy, isn't he?
Well, it's Stan Lee. I don't think Kevin Smith would have too much of a problem of accommodating because it's Stan frickin' Lee.
This is probably true. This is probably very true. All right. So I at least want to just cover this because, again, it's a brand spanking new story. You guys let us know, and I did enough homework on it, but the investigation is still ongoing. So at that point, there's not a whole lot to be able to share there. Moving on into the next story that we had for the tech portion of the evening is an update on the Wichita swatting that happened earlier this year. Now, originally, Tyler Barris, aka what is it? Swatistic is the name that he went by. We covered a couple of weeks ago that he had a little bit of prison trouble, where he was able to get onto prison internet and start threatening to swat people again. Well, the story has gotten a little bit more complex, as we did know that the 2 YouTubers that were involved were under at least an investigation and pending charges. But those charges have officially gone through, as Casey Viner and Shane Gaskell have pretty much both received the same charges, but I'm going to go through it, and they're all federal charges. Viner now faces charges of wire fraud, conspiracy to make false reports, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Gaskell has pretty much the same things: obstruction of justice, conspiracy to obstruct justice, wire fraud, all that stuff, and it's all based on the evidence that they're getting from Tyler Barris. I'm not saying that Barris has ratted them out, but now that they have Barris, they can investigate things further and be able to get the information that they need. So a lot of people were discouraged that it was only Barris that was going to be going down for this. They really wanted the other YouTubers involved in this somehow. They're officially involved. They have federal charges pending, and they will have to answer them in their own particular manner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the weird part. Like, a lot of people are very happy that this is happening, and there's also a few people going, oh, they're YouTubers. They didn't know what they were doing, and so you already have people coming out in Viner and Gaskell's defense. Okay. Alex, I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of go first. Do you think that it's wrong to charge these 2 as well as Tyler Barris?
No, because they're still accessories to the crime. So yeah, they should be charged. I wanted to see them get charged. I'm glad somebody found them and is charging them. I don't want the book thrown at them just as hard as Barris.
Yeah. I'm at least happy that I think it was Gaskell that contacted Barris. He's going in. And you know what? I can see why they would make the argument for Viner as well.
Yeah, it's like actually Viner that contacted Barris.
Oh, was it Viner?
Yeah.
So I switched it around. Yeah, my bad. I'm glad that Viner is getting that. Gaskell, I can see their point of view is like this whole thing spawned, like the death of a man at his home spawned forth from a stupid YouTube Twitter feud. Okay. And therefore it escalated to a point where Viner contacted a guy to swat a address that was not accurate. And therefore we have innocent people getting caught in the crossfire. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, even though Gaskell did really nothing in this situation aside from escalate the Twitter feud, he's partially responsible for this because it's their Twitter feud that led to the death of Andrew Finch. So I at this point, I'm actually on board with all 3 of them facing federal charges and probably even facing some time for a lot of this. Now, Barris is already facing time. He's currently imprisoned. I think the other 2 are still out, but they haven't been arraigned yet. And so at that point, they'll probably be arraigned very soon. And we'll see what happens from them from that point. So, Romney, your thoughts on this one? Was it a good idea to charge the 2 YouTubers, or was Barris enough?
No, these 2, I remember when we covered the story, I echoed Alex's sentiment that these 2 YouTubers needed to be brought to justice because they were the ones that started this whole mess, and they're the reason that Andrew Finch lost his life. So, yeah, to echo much of what Alex has said, I hope they get punished to the fullest extent of the law available because, well, these 2 knuckleheads deserve it.
Mm-hmm. So, and it looks like that they're probably going to be looking for some very, very stiff penalties for all three parties. I'm seeing a lot of this in the article that we actually have, like life in prison to a fine of up to $250,000. And I think that's for each of them. So the only thing I'm not sure about is because I think it's Kansas that, let's see. Yeah, it's Sedgwick County District Attorney Mark Bennett that's actually running a lot of this stuff. So at that point, we're probably going to get a lot of those state laws. So I haven't seen like death penalty get brought out. I don't know if death penalty is a necessity here, but I think your stiff federal penalties will be more than enough for all three of these guys.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people think, oh, they're YouTubers, they don't know what they're doing. It's like, no, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew precisely what they wanted to happen, and someone innocent got caught in the crossfire. And so people thinking, oh, they shouldn't be charged. No, they should be. They're the reason Andrew Finch got killed. Plain and simple.
And I was able to actually confirm with some legal friends of mine that, like, these are the most extreme that this thing can go. Federal crimes at bare minimum have jail time. So at that point, like, you're actually looking at, let's just say for the sake of argument, Gaskell gets negotiated down. He's probably still looking bare minimum at like 5 years in federal prison because of the incidents of this Twitter feud. So that, trust me, nobody's getting a slap on the wrist here. It's the federal court system. Everybody's going to jail at least for some amount of time. So with that being said, final thoughts before we move on into the next story. We do have some discussions tonight, so we'll probably kind of end on those. But final thoughts on this one. I think it's appropriate at this point, and I think all of the charges that they're leveling towards all three parties, and I think Barris's charge list has like 2 or 3 additionals. They're all fitting as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, with Barris specifically, it's that in addition to the federal charges, he's also facing the state level charges as well, since he was extradited to Sedgwick County. With these 2 YouTubers, there's no guarantee that they'll be extradited as well, but they're still facing federal charges, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. I guess the only question that I would have on the matter is, should Viner be, since Viner was the one who contacted Barris, should he be charged as an accomplice?
I'd say so. He was the person. Basically, I would treat this the same way you would treat it if someone hired a hitman to kill someone, because that's more or less what Viner did, is that he contacted Barris to swat Gaskell, and so I feel he should be treated the same way we would charge someone for trying to hire a hitman.
Yeah, so at that point, like, maybe he should be getting the same state charges as Barris. Not necessarily that for Gaskell, but he should be getting all of the state charges. I know that like conspiracy kind of covers a lot of this stuff, but he is just as responsible as Barris is, as far as I'm concerned, in the situation, and should probably be facing the same stiff penalties that Barris is. So that's definitely something that they probably should consider. And maybe this district attorney, Mark Bennett, is actually considering it. He just needs to get the federal charges out.
Yeah, so basically the closest comparison, I actually just looked it up, and it would depend on the jurisdiction, but I would see this as on the same level as being charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Yeah. Now, granted, the whole idea was swatting, but I feel that that's the level that he needs to be tried at, is because, well, it was conspiracy to obstruct justice, conspiracy to make false reports.
Isn't it manslaughter that they're putting on Barris? So maybe it should be manslaughter along with him.
Yeah, like maybe not manslaughter, but maybe conspiracy to commit manslaughter would probably be how I would phrase the charging. And again, it depends on whether they're trying it at a federal or state level, but point being, that is the level with which Viner should be charged, because again, he's the dumbass who contacted this guy and started this whole mess. And so, they should be punished to the full extent of the law. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. They brought this on themselves because they were too stupid to just accept the fact that it's just a freaking game.
I can already tell you guys, I think that the gamers especially are going to be watching this trial. They really are, just because whatever happens after this is probably going to impact a lot of things happening in the future. So moving on into the last story that we actually have tonight, just because it's kind of been a light week, but we do have some discussions to go into, including, holy crap, you guys all let us know about the E3 announcements. We're going to get into them, so don't worry too much about that. The next story that we do have is a little bit weird, as we officially have casting for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and it's not who I would have expected. And that is James Marsden, currently of Westworld. I think it's the same Cyclops James Marsden, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So he is going to be in the Sonic the Hedgehog film, but according to this story, unless I missed it somewhere, he doesn't have an official part. Like, we don't know who he's playing.
Well, all we know is that it's a yet unnamed human character. So some people are thinking, oh, it's him playing Sonic. Like, no, he's confirmed to be playing a currently unnamed, unknown human character in the film. Because again, this is going to be a live action animation hybrid film for Sonic the Hedgehog. And so what we know is that he's playing a to be named, to be determined human character in the story.
So is it officially cool to determine that if he is playing a father in this movie, that his son will be a hedgehog, and it will be guaranteed that it is not in fact him who is the father? It is in fact Sonic that is the father.
Wait, what?
Superman Returns happened. Do you guys not remember that plot detail?
Well, it's just I didn't quite make the connection until you pointed it out. I'm just like, wait, I don't know what direction, I don't know what corner of DeviantArt you've been browsing, Adam, and I don't want to know.
I wish this was DeviantArt, man. No, in Superman Returns, he plays the love interest of Lois Lane. Like, Lois got married while Superman was gone, and they had a kid, and it just so happens that the kid is actually the son of Superman, not of James Marsden's character. And so a lot of people like to give James Marsden crap because he left X-Men for that.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's not like he was given a good send-off anyway. Well, I mean, except for Days of Future Past. They at least fixed it with Days of Future Past.
Kinda. Well, he wasn't even in Days of Future Past. They just kind of retconned everything that happened with him, didn't they?
Well, he's in the final scene. Yeah, he had a cameo. They brought all the old actors back in that final scene when Logan wakes up and walks around the Xavier
that's
school.
Right. Yeah, they did. And James was there. So it's like, oh, yay, James and Brian are getting along again. But yeah, he left X-Men for that, to be the unofficial dad of Lois Lane's son. And to be arrested by the fact that his son is the son of Superman.
Yeah, but to kind of get back on point, this kind of raises questions of what direction they're taking with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Are they going for kind of a Transformers 4 sort of thing, where it's a case of, oh, he's going to be the human main character with the subplot that will take a good chunk of the movie and divert attention away from the super expensive visual effects that are needed to bring Sonic to life?
I wish I could say I was that optimistic. I really just think this is going to be 06 the movie, and that's the most that we can expect.
I mean, honestly, the idea, it could kind of work. This is just me kind of brainstorming, considering, let's face it, there are some ideas from the Archie comics that can kind of work, and there are even some ideas, granted, the games may not have presented the ideas in the best way, but it's a case of, okay, let's take a look at what can work and find a way to make it work in a movie. And so maybe, I don't know. I'm not entirely against the idea of having some kind of a human main character as the audience proxy for someone who may not actually be familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog to the degree that we all are as fans of the games.
Yeah, I'll just admit right here and now, I'm biased towards the idea of putting in human characters. I think if you're gonna do Sonic in movie form, your first attempt ought to be strictly CG to at least establish the guy or establish the characters and move on from that. And then if you want to do your sequel movie as him going into the human world, that's fine as far as I'm concerned. But we need to actually, kind of show that we can do a Sonic movie first before we tackle complex things like, going to the human world, trying to do 06 story or stuff like that.
Calling it here, one thing I would want to see, and again, this just may be because I actually thought this was a cool subplot in Sonic X the anime, is that whole rivalry between the race car driver and Sonic. I'm thinking, okay, if James Marsden's playing that character, that's something I can see. You have one human character obsessed with going fast who feels like he's being outmatched by this stupid, annoying blue cartoon hedgehog. If you treat it as a comedy, I can see it working.
Possibly, but that's kind of my worry, is that if they do that, it's going to be treated 100% serious. And so that's the issue.
Yeah, the problem is with Sega, we don't really know, especially considering the direction of the Sonic Boom cartoon. It's kind of a case of, hey, maybe they're if they decide, especially considering that we have Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool, as one of the producers, I'm thinking they may be trying to go a more comedic route, which honestly would be the best thing for a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, because there's no way in hell anyone's going to take this seriously.
Yeah. Now, a few listeners wanted to specifically get Alex's opinion on this one. James Marsden in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. How do you feel, Alex?
I completely forgot until you mentioned it that he is Cyclops from the X-Men movies. So before this, I had no strong opinion. I'll say again, I kind of have no strong opinion still, because he's still an unnamed role. And again, the whole CGI live-action hybrid, you go Sonic 06, but to me, it just more conjures up Smurfs or, you know, any of the other, like, hybrid movies we've had, Alvin and the Chipmunks, over the last few years. Like, I would take a Sonic 06 movie, with some rewrites, obviously, over another Alvin and the Chipmunks or Smurfs again, because I don't need another one of those. So there's just nothing to go off of here, because I don't know who he's playing. We don't know what the role is. We don't have a story plot.
The problem is, like, what indication do we have that it's not going to be like a Smurfs-esque movie, a Garfield-esque movie, an Alvin and the Chipmunks-esque movie, especially considering that, you know, this is the direction that they decided to go with right off the bat. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. We don't know too much from the Illumination Mario movie, but it looks like they're going strict CG for it. So at that point, wouldn't it just make sense to take the other video game mascot, do a strict CG movie, establish him, and then do this?
Yeah, the problem with Sega is that they're kind of spreading themselves a little too thin in terms of how they're handling Sonic as a brand. They tried to unify it under the Boom banner, but that didn't quite work out, which is why they kind of did a retread with Sonic Horses. And I think that's kind of the big problem here, is because Nintendo, like it or not, they're trying to exert a lot more control over their properties in film form. So although it's Illumination Entertainment making the Mario movie, Nintendo is going to exert a lot of control over what they can and can't do.
Well, from what I understand already, there's a dedicated team that's with Illumination working on it.
Yeah, whereas Sega, on the other hand, they've always had kind of a hands-off approach when it came to the comics, when it came to some of the other games. It's very much a case of, especially when you look at how Nintendo handles their Twitter as opposed to how Sega handles their Twitter, it's like a night and day difference, where Sega is very much like, yeah, we'll play fast and loose. We're not going to tie anybody down. And
which is why in a lot of cases people have had such an issue with Sega's take on it and have strongly urged them to either hire the writers from the Boom comic or the Archie Comics storylines kind of thing, bring them in to tell a game story, and then they just have to worry about the level design.
Yeah, and again, it's hard to say, but I think that's kind of the fundamental difference here, is that Sega has never been one to be as draconian as Nintendo. That was kind of something that in their early inception as a company, that was what they were kept fighting against. And that was something they even used as an edge to try to bring more harder edge titles to their consoles, like Mortal Kombat, is that they're basically just like, hey, you don't want to deal with Nintendo's draconian policies? Come put your stuff on Sega consoles. We'll take you. And that's kind of been their business model. So again, we're just looking at a straight up crapshoot here. We don't know which way the dice are going to land here, and it's still too early to tell what direction they're going with this.
The other thing that we also need to clarify is, because somebody actually did ask this question way back when, and I've never really had a means to be able to get into it. It was back when we covered the whole TJ Miller situation involving the bomb threat. A lot of people, I guess, are under the impression that TJ Miller might also be Tim Miller. I don't think that's the case, guys.
No, they're two separate people.
Yeah, I TJ Miller, the actor, and then there's Tim Miller, the director, producer, writer guy. So I don't think they're the same dude here.
They're not. They're not the same dude. I can tell you straight up.
If they were, I could already tell you if he was facing federal charges, he'd be off the project so fast it'd make his head spin, kind of thing. Because Sega wouldn't be dealing with it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like looking at this, my brain is just thinking, okay, if they go the comedy route, are we going to have to worry about a random cameo from Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool? I mean, might as well, if they're going to go completely bonkers.
I want Sonic Pool. I need to have my Sonic Pool.
And see, that's when you just have Deadpool inflate like a children's pool that's in the shape of Sonic. It's just like, there's your Sonic Pool.
And he needs to have 5 centimeters exactly in leg size, and his eyes need to be exactly like Deadpool's.
See,
and do you want to know what's really sad about this entire discussion? Somebody out there on the internet just got the inspiration to create Sonapool. I give it 2 days before somebody sends us DeviantArt of Sonapool.
Oh, I'm sure it already exists. The internet works really fast on this sort of thing.
Yeah. You're welcome. Well, if you came up with the idea before then you're not welcome. But if you're literally inspired because or you got inspired after this podcast happened, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's just, again, I'm optimistic because it's a case of, hey, hopefully they won't take this too seriously, because honestly, that was the problem with Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06, was that it took itself too seriously. And so, again, it's a new frontier. We're kind of starting to get out of the idea of bad video game movies. We're kind of, Mother's Basement kind of put it best when he described where we are with anime, but we're kind of reaching that same point with video games, where we're kind of starting to exit the Blade X-Men era of adaptations. Yeah. And we're now starting to get companies that actually give a crap about their franchises, some that give too much of a crap that leads to a very bloated mess, a la Warcraft. So it's, again, we're kind of still on the end of that X-Men Blade adaptation era for video game movies.
But let's look on the bright side here. At least, like, debating however this Sonic movie rolls out, at least this year, we're going to get a really good cameo in Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Oh, yeah, they're doing that.
They still have the rights to Sonic, right?
I have no idea.
We don't.
We'll double check that, but I think they still have the rights to a lot of the video game likenesses they had.
Well, it's, again, you don't know, given just how much Disney had to pay for some of them. Granted, They said they had an easier time negotiating with Sega than Nintendo.
Yes.
But given that the premise is literally Ralph breaks the internet, I mean, if they're going to have a nod to the Sonic Twitter, I mean, I'd watch just that scene.
Oh, no. Oh, an idea just barely came to my mind. What if they tried to create like a Chris Chan character in the internet that is constantly complaining about Sonic?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go that far.
Okay.
Maybe
you guys are giving me comfort.
I mean, honestly, the closest we could probably see is maybe a satirical G-rated version of maybe James Rolfe complaining about some botched up port of Wreck-It Ralph, maybe. That would probably be the approach.
You can't G-rate James Rolfe.
Well, the Sword Quest comics that Dynamite put out found a way to make a reference to James Rolfe that actually was kind of PG, so
that's true. Yeah.
It is possible. And so that's the way I would see it, is that maybe if you find like an internet reviewer complaining about like a very botched up port of the in-universe Wreck-It Ralph game, kind of like how people would complain about the Atari port of Pac-Man, something like that I can see working.
Yeah. Okay, so final thoughts on this one before we move into kind of discussion topics tonight. I mean, I wish I could say more positive things about this, but I've had issues ever since the announcement. And that's, I mean, even Eddie LeBron couldn't get his Sonic movie off the ground. Granted, he was paying a lot of money out to Jaleel White to be able to do it. But I mean, even Eddie LeBron couldn't get that off the ground. And he actually did a pretty worthwhile rendition, like a worthwhile indie rendition of Mega Man. So at that point, if he couldn't get it off the ground, I just don't see anybody else doing it. Not with a mascot as big as Sonic.
Well, that's the thing. Sonic's not nearly as big as he once was, and that's the other factor to consider.
I still consider, as far as sheer recognition, yeah, through modern day recognition, you're right, Ronnie. He's not that recognized. He's actually considered a bad game kind of mascot. But at that, I still hold him up about the same as I do Mario. And so at that point, like, I'm still worried because I don't like the direction that they're going with this.
Yeah, well, we won't know until we actually start seeing any trailers, but the fact that they're moving to casting means that they've got a script locked down and it means that they're actually moving forward.
Alex, is there anything in this that could make you more optimistic towards this movie?
Still, again, right now, there's nothing because we still don't have any details of what this movie's going to actually be beyond just the basic, oh, it's a live action CG hybrid. Okay, what else do you got besides that? Yeah. So until I start seeing more, I can't really say one way or the other.
Okay. So the first discussion that we actually have tonight, we actually do have a question from you guys that I wanted to be able to get to because enough of you guys have asked this that I think we should at least address it. But the first thing that we want to get into is E3 and basically kind of like we've done in years past where we had games that we were getting excited for, at least because now we're starting to have the E3 leaks. They've been happening all week where we know this game now is going to be there and this game is going to be there now. I'm actually bringing up the list right now. So this is kind of our pre-E3 speculation. So right off the bat, there's been a number of announcements that have happened this week that a lot of people have been getting excited for. In particular, Bethesda fans have been letting me know left and right that Fallout 76 is in fact a thing, and it's going to be at E3. The other one that the Shadow Blazer I know tracked down, as well as a few other listeners, is that oh crap, what was that called? Sonic Sega All Stars Racing? Was that what it was called? The other game?
Well, like
I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking the old one. What was it called?
Yeah, Sega Sonic All Stars Racing.
Yeah, so this one is basically getting a kind of sequel, kind of not, called Team Sonic Racing. And the trailer leaked, I want to say Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. So you have that to be able to look forward to. There's also been tons of rumors of stuff that there's been tons of rumors about other games that might actually be announced, including the rumor from Nintendo that they will have an announcement for Retro Studios working on a Star Fox game called Star Fox Grand Prix. Basically, I think what they're trying to say there is that their next F-Zero game is going to be in the Star Fox part of that universe, roughly.
That just makes the cross-pollination between the two franchises even more confusing, considering that James McCloud is a racer in the F-Zero series.
Yes, there's lots of issues there, but those are just a few examples. So I've actually got a list up of all the stuff that has officially been confirmed. I can't tell you what. If I know any additional details, I'll bring it up, but I'm not going to go through the whole list. I'm just going to go through the big ones that people wanted us to talk about. Anthem is going to be there. I was not surprised when they said that Anthem was going to be there. It's the new BioWare game that's supposedly going to be, well, EA's answer to Destiny. So it's obvious that that's probably going to be there at the E3 conference, the EA conference. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which literally leaked yesterday. So it looks like Assassin's Creed is going Greek. So we got the trailer for that. That's confirmed to be at E3 on the show floor. Battlefield 5 has been confirmed for quite a while, and we even got some reveal trailers recently. Ubisoft has come out and said that Beyond Good and Evil 2 will be there. That's probably the only thing I'm excited for at the Ubisoft conference. The usual suspects, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is going to be there. Death Stranding is supposed to have another video that they'll be able to showcase. So confirmed, Kojima will be there because he's usually the guy dropping those off and debuting them. The Division 2 is another one from Ubisoft. For Honor will have some updates. So will Fortnite. Last of Us Part 2 is another one that a lot of people have been very excited for, along with I can't remember the team that's working on it, but Ghosts of Tsushima, which got a lot of positive praise a couple of months ago when it got announced. I want to say it's Insomniac, but I don't think that's the right studio for it. Kingdom Hearts 3, we do know that will have a playable demo on the show floor for PS4 and Xbox One users. Mega Man 11 will also be there. Rage 2 has been confirmed. Trailers are out, so it will be there to answer questions about Rage 2. Like we said, Team Sonic Racing will be there, and I think they've even said now they will have demo stations there, which tells us that its development is pretty far along. Super Smash Brothers is officially confirmed for E3 2018, where we'll probably get, I want to say, 3 or 4 character reveals to help get the momentum on that one rolling. Those are all the big ones that are on the list of confirmed games so far. There's a bunch of rumored games. We could literally go all day with those, some of which I think have a lot of potential. some of which I don't. I'm going to go ahead and be honest, Final Fantasy fans, I don't think your 7 remake is going to be there, given all of the issues that have been happening this past year. But on the other hand, I also do think that Xbox will have a Gears of War 5 to be able to debut. I think Metroid Prime 4 will be there too. So plenty of stuff to be able to go into. And then we also did have the other big Nintendo announcement that isn't in this list of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee edition, which is basically going to be the console answer to the gens. They're now just basically going to do console gens and handheld gens, because they've kind of confirmed, but not, that there will be a successor to the 3DS. There will be another handheld console, and that another handheld, and that will carry on the handheld gens. But Let's Go will now start a franchise on the consoles with Pokemon Go functionality and all that fun stuff. But you basically get to go back to the Kanto region in console format. So that was actually a lot to go into. Alex, since you're actually the one that brought up Team Sonic Racing, and you and I kind of talked a little bit about Pokemon Let's Go, what announcements so far are you excited that are going to be at E3?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to pay too much attention to E3, but I am interested in the new Pokemon games. I mean, obviously we got the Pokemon Let's Go, but there's also supposed to be a new core series RPG in the works, so I'm hoping we'll maybe see a little bit of that.
Let's Go is going to be a core series. You're talking like Gen 8, right?
I think so. I can't remember all the numbers, but
I don't think we're going to get Gen 8. They said that we would probably get something like that next year, but the other one that they did announce was Pokemon Quest, which is basically Pokemon's answer to Minecraft. I'm not even kidding. It's Pokemon Minecraft form is what it basically looks like, but it's got RPG-esque mechanics. I wonder if that's the one you're thinking of.
I have no clue because I'm still kind of thrown off by the whole Let's Go Eevee, and I'm like, okay, is this the core? Is this separate? Yeah, I'm still kind of confused about where the twains kind of meet, but I'm still interested to see where the Pokemon series is going.
Mm-hmm.
And
it seems appropriate considering our new president, Shuntaro Furukawa, who's done a lot of work with the Pokemon Company, that he would have a lot of Pokemon announcements his first go around.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised that I know we keep hearing there's going to be the successor to the 3DS. I'm not sure where that's really going to go. I'm not even sure we'd see that at E3, just because we already got the Switch, which is the hybrid handheld console.
Given this last gen of console reveals, I honestly think that's going to be the dictating forces. Like, Nintendo would hold their own direct to reveal it just as much like they did it for the Switch. They did a Switch reveal in their own way. I think that they would do that for a handheld successor too. I really don't think the consoles are ever going to come back to E3.
Yeah, probably not. The new Sega racing game, a little interested. I'm not huge on racing games, but I had some fun with All-Stars Racing.
Yep.
So, that's kind of it. I don't pay much attention to the AAA titles, really. I guess I'm a little curious about what if we'll get more of Death Stranding beyond Norman Reedus's bare ass, but maybe we'll just see his bare crotch this time. Who knows?
Probably not. Probably not.
I'm just going to go ahead and confirm that. Oh, crap. I had his name in my head and it just escaped me. He played Zordon in the new one.
Bryan Cranston.
They're going to confirm Bryan Cranston is yet another villain in Death Stranding. And everybody's going to be like, oh!
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's going to go to Del Toro, who's already given his likeness for it. So,
come on. We want a Bryan Cranston villain. Come on.
Yeah, but the question is, does Bryan Cranston want a Bryan Cranston villain, considering he's already so famous for being one already now?
Well, I guess it would depend on...
care.
I think it would depend on the type of villain, because a lot of people kind of forget that, you know him as Walter White and these very serious characters. But honestly, one thing I would like to see in a video game villain, if Bryan Cranston plays one, is maybe someone a bit more flamboyant. I mean, just spitballing here, if it was something to the level of Kefka, that's something I can see Bryan Cranston playing effectively, balancing both the comedic, but also the straight up terrifying.
I can already tell you guys like one casting announcement that I would lose my proverbial shit over if it actually ever happened. I don't think it will because I don't have enough evidence confirming the connections. But if all of a sudden Paul Bettany came out announced as a villain for Death Stranding, that would certainly pique my interest because you know what? When Paul Bettany gets to play a villain that, or not necessarily a villain, but like a morally ambiguous character, he pulls the F off. He's really good at it. And I would love to see him as a Kojima villain. Come on, Romney. You and I both have got to be on the same wavelength. He'd be perfect.
Well, I admit I haven't seen Paul Bettany in that many roles, at least not in as many that I'm aware of. I mean, I've seen him in the Avengers films, and he was probably the only good thing in Mordecai, but I'll have to watch a few more movies where I can actually see Paul Bettany acting to be able to give an opinion in that regard.
Yeah, because I've seen him in Beautiful Mind, the Avengers films, and Legion.
Okay, I just like, Beautiful Mind.
And Da Vinci Code. Da Vinci Code, he was in that too.
Well, yeah, it took me a while to remember like who he was. I had to put two and two together, but it was like, oh yeah, now I remember because I just remembered. Oh yeah, he played these roles. I'm just like, okay, I can see it. I can see it.
And actually, since I brought up Da Vinci Code, Alfred Molina would also be another interesting pick for a Kojima villain. I think he could pull it off. Like, I mean, if you're gonna have like Mads Mikkelsen in there, that I think Alfred Molina would be another good pick.
Yeah, but I think maybe the part of the casting process is, okay, how many of you can actually stand in the same room as Kojima and actually follow along when he's trying to explain the story?
None. Let's just be honest. Like, they're all just going to kind of sit there and go, how about we just stand here and be outlandish? Okay, yeah. Let's do that. I mean, for crying out loud, like one of the things that got brought up, because we didn't officially cover the Metal Gear Solid movie, and somebody actually brought up an interesting idea to me, and I can't remember who. It was like, oh my gosh, Paul Bettany is Psycho Mantis. Like, ooh. Dude, that would actually be pretty badass.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah. And just looking at it, I'm just thinking, okay, maybe the litmus test will be if the person can listen to Kojima's explanation of the story and actually understand it, that's who he chooses as the villain. Because again, a villain's got to think through all those lines. Like, okay, if he can actually understand Kojima's madness, that makes him the villain. I mean, unless Kojima decides to make himself the villain.
Yeah. The other thing that I also need to cover with Alex is we keep on getting the questions, Alex, so I at least have to get it figured out. Since you are a Spider-Man fan, people are wondering if what Sony could possibly do to get you excited into that PS4 Spider-Man that's coming out in September.
I guess just to see the gameplay naturally, not see a pre-rendered cinematic trailer, but see how it actually functions gameplay-wise.
It's possible. I can definitely tell you it's possible that it might be there. You'll probably get a gameplay demo on the press conferences, but it will be there on the show floor. If it's coming out in September, it's going to be there.
Yeah. In that case, I'm probably not going to be totally convinced because show floor stuff is usually what can I see through ex-YouTubers grading camcorder footage.
Well, but you can't even do that anymore. The show floors were pretty strict last year. They wouldn't let camcorders go in there to record footage.
Doesn't surprise me too much there.
So at that point, a lot of that we had to rely on testimony from like Angry Joe or whomever was there. So that's kind of the sad reality there too. But people did want me to at least ask about, since you're a brand new PlayStation 4 owner, the Spider-Man game, and also just any other games on PS4 that you are excited for, that you want to see announcements for.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly, what's coming to PS4, because, well, anything I would probably be wanting to get on a PS4, like I said, I don't pay a lot of attention to the AAA games that much anymore. So anything would probably be like small scale, like AA indie titles, and well, those may or may not be on the show floor. Those may not even be at E3 at all. So
it would be interesting to see if CyberConnect 2 has something going, considering that they got dropped off of the FF7 remake.
Yeah, I know they're supposed to be producing a brand new anime sometime. I haven't heard anything since that initial announcement. I know it's a new anime and it would be tied to their Dot Hack universe. That's great. That's fine. Because I'm curious what kind of new property they could do. Because I think they're a pretty good development team. I mean, I haven't played Ashura's Wrath or anything, but I think they're a good, solid development team.
Yeah, that's right. CyberConnect 2 is... I liked Ashura's Wrath. In fact, that might actually be something you and I need to do at some point in the future, because it's weird, it's outlandish, but actually it's pretty well animated and pretty well voiced. So it might be something we just need to take on. Romney, what about like any of the announcements here have caught your interest? I mean, we've talked about Death Stranding. The other rumored ones that I should probably bring to you because people want me to is Dragon Quest 2 is apparently going to be there. The other one that people wanted you to know about was Octopath Traveler and was there a Fire Emblem? No, it was just Dragon Quest 2 and then the FF7 remake and all that stuff. Any of this stuff kind of poking out to you as something you'd be interested in?
Well, not as any of the rumored stuff, but stuff that we know is going to be there. There are some things that catch my eye. I guess the only real title that I'm genuinely curious about, because I've been following it on and off, and that would be the upcoming game Vampire. Because the world of it seems interesting, the story of it seems interesting, and hopefully by the time we see what we see at E3, it'll be in a more polished state, because what we've seen so far has been pretty rough, for lack of a better term.
I think... I might need to confirm this, but Vampire, I think, has a release date of June 5th. So at that point, like, if Vampire is confirmed to be at E3, would it be a DLC pack that they're bringing?
I'm not sure. I mean, if it's going to be coming out June 5th, that's a bit too soon.
I saw a Vampire poster at my local GameStop that had a June 5th release date. So if somebody wants to confirm that is the release date or not, that was one thing that threw me off about the confirming of that. Yeah, it's June 5th, 2018 is what Google brings up. Is June 5th is its release date.
Yeah, that is a bit strange that they're doing an E3 promotion. I guess maybe to try to get people involved, but that's concerning. But that's, out of everything, that's like the only other title that actually has me mildly piqued. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as Alex, where I do want to see more natural gameplay of Spider-Man, not just choreographed gameplay, where it says like, oh, it's an engine, but it's still heavily choreographed and staged. But with any of the rumored stuff, I mean, yeah, I'm curious to see if the rumor of a new Splinter Cell title is actually true, considering that the stealth game market has gotten considerably dry as of late.
That's definitely one that a lot of people are hoping to see from Ubisoft, because after talking to a few Ubisoft fans, aside from our buddy Brinton, who is absolutely ecstatic for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the ones that actually do play, that I know of that do play the like the Splinter Cells and all that stuff, they were not excited for the announcements of the Division 2 and the possibility of like another Rainbow Six game that's also being rumored. They were more interested in what is the next entry in Splinter Cell gonna look like. And so because I think that was also part of the leaked photos that we got from from Target or Walmart. One of the two.
Yeah, that was one of the rumored titles, so I'm definitely curious to see if that actually will be confirmed. And I am a bit curious to see if they'll actually unveil more about Shenmue 3 as well, just to see if they've actually got something going with it, since that's also another rumored title.
That's another one that I'm not sure if this has been updated, because I think I've already read a story from Sony saying that Shenmue will not be at E3 2018.
So yeah,
I think it was coupled with the delay to 2019.
Okay, so the list that we've got on IGN probably hasn't been updated.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I'm kind of in the same boat as Alex. I don't follow the AAA gaming too much, especially considering that I kind of have myself on a bit of a game buying embargo where I've bought too many and I'm actually trying to play through the ones I already have before I start trying to put down more money on buying more, so...
Well, and there might be a couple of other like little things here and there that we'll be interested in. I have heard rumor that Arc System Works has a trailer for the next DLC characters for Dragon Ball Fighters because they're getting ready to release Super Saiyan Blue, Vegito, and Fused Zamasu. So their next pair of DLC characters might get announced there too. So there will be a bunch of little ones, but I also will say, like, it's actually been really cool to see all of the indie games that get announced at E3. I don't necessarily have a whole lot of sources where I can go and find indie games. And so a lot of the indie games that get recommended to me, like they get sent to me from listeners or whatever, you ought to look into this game. Or I go to E3 and I see like all of the indie montages and get a lot of really great game ideas to be able to do reviews for. So I'm looking forward to at least that portion too. The other one that people wanted me to bring up with you, Romney, was Kingdom Hearts 3. So do we think, like, what do we think the extent is going to be here? A lot of people are speculating it's release date time. We're going to get a release date, and it's probably going to be like holiday of this year or something like that, especially if they have a playable demo that's going to be there. What do we and also, do we expect Sony to announce that release date or Square Enix to do it because Square Enix will have a conference?
Well, given that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going multi-platform, it would most likely be at the Square Enix conference because it's slated for release on both Xbox One and PS4. So yeah. I doubt Sony would want to announce a title that's going to be available on their competitor. And honestly, just given just how jaded I've become with Kingdom Hearts news, I mean, yeah, we have trailers. Yeah, we have gameplay footage. I mean, if we get a release date, great. But I'm not particularly optimistic.
And the thing to consider with the Square Enix press conference is it is right in the middle. So like it's after the Microsoft conference and it's right before Sony. So it's entirely possible they'll just announce it there. And I'm kind of there with you. Like, we haven't gotten a whole lot of news towards Kingdom Hearts 3. This year has been kind of a boon, but it's not been the kind of boon that I would say, like, yes, this game is definitely coming out. I think it's potential for it to be coming out, but I'm not entirely sold on it yet.
Yeah, it's very much, you strung us along too long, Nomura. I mean, it's a case of this game better be freaking amazing if it's going to win back the jaded fan base, because, again, you took too damn long.
And then, of course, the other thing that people are speculating is that Nintendo is also going to have the announcement of it going to the Switch as well, because a lot of people have been speculating since Resident Evil 7 has been confirmed for the Switch, although you have to have, like, a cloud save, and that's where a majority of the data goes to it. So you have to have the online service. That Kingdom Hearts 3 will also be on Switch, and also with that the rumored Sora Super Smash Brothers announcement would happen.
I'd say that's wishful thinking at this point. I mean, the fact that we got Cloud...
Sora makes more sense than Cloud, but I could only see him being brought in if that's actually what's happening.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if they actually decide, even if it's not, it's a release of Kingdom Hearts 3, but maybe if they decide to port, like, the older games to the Switch, maybe. But again,
they didn't even port the old games to the Xbox One. So, because like, if you want to be able to get the older games, you can you can get the PS4 remakes of them, or the PS4 versions of them, but you can't do that for Xbox fans. And so at that point, like, if they were going to do it, I could honestly see them saying, okay, just 3 for Nintendo, and just hoping that Smash kind of sells Kingdom Hearts 3 on Switch. It's just like, that's the only way I see that working.
Yeah, because honestly, like, the whole, and then Sora's going to be in Smash Brothers, temper it a little bit. I mean, the fact that we got Cloud was because Square and Nintendo had already been doing some horse trading, not to mention that Cloud was also the most requested third-party character. And so it's a case of, again, I'm skeptical. I mean, if they announce a release date, great. If they show, like, again, non-choreographed gameplay footage that is showing the actual way it will look in the final product, great. But again, I'm kind of the disgruntled Kingdom Hearts fan that had been strung along for 10 years at this point. I'm just like, this Nomura, you've got a lot to prove. This game better be freaking amazing. Otherwise, I'm not really going to bother getting hyped for it.
What about Ghost of Tsushima? Are you excited for that at all?
I have no idea about it. I've only heard about it just now, so I don't know too much.
Yeah, I think it's from Insomniac. Hold on, let me double check it, because like, this is another game where I kind of wonder, given your love of martial arts, if this should have been something that is considered by you. Ghost of Tsushima. Let me see if I can get their developer at the very least. because it was interesting when I actually read it. Oh, Sucker Punch.
Right.
Sucker Punch is the one that's working on it. So the people who did Infamous and Sly Cooper.
Well, I mean, I'll definitely be open to it. Again, I don't really follow too much, but it's a case of, okay, if it looks interesting, I'll probably check it out, but I didn't know too much about it because, again, I don't follow gaming news too much. So, but Sucker Punch, well, I mean, at least they actually put in their due diligence most of the time.
Yeah, and
so,
I remember seeing the initial trailer to Ghost of Tsushima and being fairly excited for it. So that would be very interesting to see if they could pull that off and we get a much more in-depth trailer at the Sony conference. The other thing that I should also bring up for both of you is, since, we haven't really had a Nintendo talk, but a lot of speculation around this one is what Nintendo has to bring to E3. Yeah, sure, we've gotten the announcement of Pokemon Let's Go and Pokemon Quest and we've had a Kirby game this year. But the big elephants in the room that people are wondering our opinions on, as well as speculating on, is there is already talk that there is going to be the announcement of the last Zelda and Mario 3DS games that are going to be coming out for that platform before they move on to the next one. And then the other one is obviously Metroid Prime 4, this Star Fox Grand Prix announcement. Like, aside from the stuff they've already announced, do we see them having any other left hook announcements like they did last year to be able to pull off? I kind of don't know.
Yeah, it can go either way. I think the most left hook thing we might see is maybe a surprise character for Smash Brothers, but that's probably it, especially since Nintendo has been doing the case of announcing things via their own direct. They don't really hold off until E3 anymore, so it's kind of the case what we're getting so far is probably all we're going to get.
Yeah, and even in the concept of DLC packs, I don't see... I think they've released all the DLC they're going to release for Breath of the Wild. I think they've released all the DLC that they could for Odyssey. So we're not going to see anything for those games. I think people really want to see Metroid Prime 4 just to see what, it's not retro. It's a new team, or it's, Namco Bandai that's working on it. So people want to see a demo of that. Star Fox Grand Prix, obviously, because of the retro tag to it, to see what retro could do with the Star Fox brand. Although it sounds to me like they're basically going to do like an F-Zero meets Star Fox-esque game with that rumor. There's definitely a lot for Nintendo to be able to prove here, especially considering this is the first outing of new president Shuntaro Furukawa, and also kind of setting a pace for the Switch, which they definitely still need to do in order to be able to get it continuing to stay strong in the holidays. So that's definitely going to be something that I look forward to seeing if they'll be able to pull it off. And then obviously the other thing that people wanted us to bring up and speculate on is, we kind of already announced it, but the new Nintendo 3DS successor, do we see that being there? No. And then the other one was since the PS5 is confirmed it will not be there, do we actually see, because they're already rumoring about this, do we see the rumored Vita 2 showing up at the Sony conference? And I'm not there with you guys.
Sony has learned their lesson, and they've made it clear, given that they pretty much withdrew all support for the Vita, I doubt they're going to try their hand at re-entering the handheld market anytime soon, especially that...
Well, they've shown interest. They've shown interest in doing it again, but do I see it coming to the North American market? No.
No, at least not in the form that we got in the Vita. I mean, I can see them trying something different. It's just a case of it's still too early to tell either way, but given how poorly the Vita did, not both in Japan and in the Western countries, it's going to be a case of that if they're going to throw their hat in the ring again, they're going to hopefully be a bit more cautious about it. Because the other thing to consider is that, portable gaming is losing ground to mobile gaming. So the problem is that Sony needs some stronger first-party titles if they even stand a chance, because that's what allowed Nintendo to still have such a foothold.
Exactly. And the other thing, too, to consider is, let's just say for the sake of argument that the Vita 2 is a thing and it's going to happen. It's kind of like how I answered originally. If Nintendo had a 3DS successor, they'd be doing their own damn event. They'd be doing a reveal event on their own. Same thing with Sony. Sony's already done with the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. They will do it with the Vita too if it actually happens. They'll just do their own event and answer questions there, kind of thing. So I think that pretty much covers all of the E3 speculation that we at least have. Oh, the other one that people wanted to ask is Alex is there's a possibility that Sea of Thieves will be there for DLC. Are you hoping that Rare will come with something other than Sea of Thieves, like they'll come with another game that they're working on?
I'm kind of doubting it. I mean, certain Sea of Thieves is an MMO. That's probably occupying most of their time.
They're dedicated to it, as far as I'm concerned, right now. I mean, I'll need to confirm this again, but to my knowledge, Sea of Thieves numbers isn't good. So Microsoft might want them to be working on something else, but do I think that they have that something else to show here? No. I think they've got an expansion to show off to the Sea of Thieves fan base, and that's about it. So onwards to the final question that we actually have for the night. And this one has been happening since, I want to say, March of this year. And I've just had a very difficult time trying to be able to put it into agendas. So we're just going to throw it in here because it's the eve of E3 and we might as well just answer it now. And the best way to be able to put the question up is the way I put it up on the agenda is after all the crap happening within YouTube, the stuff they're talking about is like the changes to the partner program, the changes to personalize your feeds and all that stuff. So now, if people subscribe to you, they don't get your videos in order. They may not even get your videos at all. All of which are examples and stuff we've talked about with YouTube, all the crap happening within YouTube this year. Do any of you on the panel still consider yourself to be, quote, YouTubers? And by definition, that is like somebody who's very devoted to making YouTube content and only YouTube content, only being devoted to this one platform. Or are you still excited about being creators on the platform? If so, or if not, why are you that way? And before I get into my stuff, I'm actually going to go ahead and put Alex on the spot here. Because I know that this has actually been personally addressed for you as to whether or not you're still happy being a YouTuber or basically delivering strictly YouTube content.
Yeah, as happy as I can be. I wouldn't mind branching out. The problem is it's just there's not a lot of other areas for me to branch out into, but making videos is what I wanted to do. I've tried the blogging scene and I never really took to it, even though I'll definitely argue I'm a way better writer than I am a speaker, but that's why I have scripts. And really, while Twitch is certainly an inviting avenue for if I want to do gameplay videos, I don't think I make a very good live streamer. So yeah, I think just where I am is where I'm comfortable. And if I want to dabble a little bit in other areas, I will.
If there was another platform that you could be able to try out, like, would you jump to it and it looked like it was going to treat you better and all that? Would you jump to it in a heartbeat, or would you stick with what you've gone with for so long?
I'd say I'd try and split myself. I know a lot of people were trying that with VidMe before VidMe went down. I certainly thought about it too, but I held out. And I guess I wasn't any worse off for it. But, if another platform did emerge, I can't say I'm too interested in Facebook right now, but if another platform, say, did emerge, I would definitely try to, say, split content here and there.
Okay.
Before I wouldn't want to try invest everything in one basket again.
Okay. Now I know that a few people have asked this specifically of you, but the other reason that I kind of singled you out is like, you're the only one that really hasn't branched out. You've kind of stuck to the YouTube platform despite all the crap that's been happening. And you've basically tried to adapt your content as best as you can to be able to do the best that it can. Whereas the other two panelists here have branched out and have actually experimented with a few other things. So Stephen Romney, do you still consider yourself a YouTuber or somebody who is very excited or still excited about producing YouTube only content? If not, why? If so, why? Like, where are you standing with the whole situation?
Honestly, I'm kind of in the camp of not really using. I don't really see myself in identifying as a YouTuber with any real sense of pride. And that's just because the website doesn't inspire much confidence that it actually has the creator's best interests at heart. And again, that's expected. They're a business and they need to make money. They're actually a bit of a money sink for Google at present. But it's just with everything that's happened, it's kind of a case of, like you've mentioned, I've tried branching out. I was the first of us who jumped onto VidMe before VidMe went down. And some people even recall that I now upload stuff to Facebook when I actually upload. I haven't uploaded recently because, well, life. But it's also, that's a case of, I have branched out for precisely those same reasons. YouTube is not seeming super stable. And the term YouTuber is not really something I use to identify with any real source of pride. Not that I really ever used it as a moniker for myself. I never really called myself a YouTuber. I always just saw myself as an online content creator. It's just how happens that a majority of it was on YouTube, but I also posted stuff to my Tumblr. I also had a DeviantArt page. It's a case of I just created content that happened to be online. YouTube just happened to be the biggest of the platforms. But it's a case of I've never really identified myself as a YouTuber. And given YouTube's recent track record, I don't see how anyone really could.
No, there's not really a whole lot of, for lack of a better term, brand loyalty when it comes to YouTube right now. Because the problem is that, yeah, you have some amazing things happening for the premium content, but for the content creators who are working their butts off night and day to be able to provide that content to the audience, it's not so easy. And YouTube isn't necessarily looking to cater to everybody. They're more willing to cater to those who are bringing, millions of dollars to the mix. They're interested in working with the Vivos and the NBCs and the Comcasts and all that. They're not necessarily interested in catering to the younger talent and making them bigger, better, stronger, all that. Because we've even heard the bigger YouTubers complain that YouTube's just not on their side anymore, and that's saying a lot, considering that some of those bigger YouTubers are very reputable and have good standing with the people at YouTube. So it's definitely something to consider here. My opinion on the matter is that even though a lot of my content is strictly via YouTube, I haven't necessarily been on the YouTube bandwagon. And the only reason that I can cite to you guys that I haven't ever been is because even walking into YouTube, the way that I did, and I normally, like, the first little bit I walked in partnered with Alex. So at that point, like, the second that like, if Blip was actually going to be able to pull things off and be able to be sustainable, and I had the opportunity to go to Blip instead of YouTube, I would have gone to Blip. And I wouldn't have had to think twice about it, because the bottom line is that while I enjoy what I do and I have a passion for it, like, as much as I act stressed out these last couple of months, I go to sleep every night, or I go to bed every night knowing that I'm doing what I love doing. So at that point, like, I don't necessarily feel bad for it, aside from the concept that you're not really able to make a whole lot of money doing this strictly on YouTube. Unlike if you're a Markiplier or a Jacksepticeye, you could probably do it. But I've never characterized myself as a YouTuber. Hi. I have an audience now. Hold on a second.
Yeah, well, to kind of continue talking as Adam is settling that, just filling the noise, and he's back.
Yeah, there you go. So I haven't necessarily considered myself a YouTuber, like where I would wear the t-shirt and I'd go to the company softball game and I'd support the brand kind of thing. Like, I haven't had that kind of loyalty for it. It's just been basically a place for me to be able to put something resembling a resume for people to be able to go and look into. So at that point, like, I wouldn't consider myself a YouTuber by any stretch of the imagination. And obviously, I've experimented with other platforms. I've experimented with Twitch. I've experimented with a little bit with Facebook. I experimented with VidMe before it went down. My overall deal is that, if I'm going to work hard for this and put something out that I think is a marketable product to a market, I want to be able to get some kind of money for it. Too many curses. Apparently, my daughter is absolutely mad at me for not being a YouTuber. That's the way that it's going. Yeah, you guys can even hear her out of the door, unfortunately, because she is that mad that we're preventing her from walking in here. Sorry, we crashed the party for her. But yeah, I don't consider myself a YouTuber, and obviously, like a lot of the measures that I've been taking this year have been to take the content that I think is appropriate for YouTube and keep it there, but basically treat it what it's going to be, as what it's going to be, which is a hobby, and taking all of the other marketable stuff that I think can actually make some kind of revenue out of it, and taking it to the areas where I think it can do that. So in a lot of cases, that's why I'm very happy that the podcast has an RSS feed, is that we can actually make that a little bit more marketable. If YouTube changed the other thing too, that I should probably add into the question, if YouTube changed their minds and actually like redacted a few of these newer policies, would that give you at least a little bit, any of us, like at least a little bit more brand loyalty to stick with YouTube and see if things got better?
No, they haven't earned that trust, because they often say things are going to be made better, that they're going to improve, but well, I've been burned too many times before, so unless they actually announce those changes and actually stick with them, I don't see much. I don't really see any loyalty being incurred here. I'm kind of taking the David Hayter approach. Basically, I am to YouTube what David Hayter is to Kojima. I view it as just a business, a means to an end, but I don't actually have any love or loyalty to it. It's just a case of, okay, this is just a business. If this business partnership's not working out, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Exactly. Alex, what about you? Like if they redacted a few policies, would that change your overall outlook on YouTube at all?
It'd make me feel a little better, but I would have to agree with Romney here that, it's a business decision, and I would rather just go. For me, I go where the views are. Right now, the views are on YouTube. Even in the early days of YouTube, the Wild West days, argue whether you think that's the golden age or whatever. But even then, I was still dabbling quite a bit with Dailymotion and VO, and neither of those sites have really panned out for me. Even now, where I sort of maintain sort of like that Dailymotion for the videos that I can't get through YouTube because of content ID or whatever, they just never gain any traction there. So I pretty much that's why I stick to YouTube, because my content is not really designed for a platform like Twitch, and there's really not many other video sites out there where I can present myself. So it's just what it is, and that's what I got to do, and I just got to work with it, and I got to deal with it.
Yeah. To answer it on my end, it's very simple, and this is a story I think that can now be told to you guys. Because a lot of people have asked about this, because I did tease a lot of this content and then never delivered. Back in January, I was actually teasing 2 additional series, for lack of a better term, on YouTube. And all of a sudden, or I want to say about a week before the partner program stuff actually went into effect, I was advertising that pretty hard, and then the partner program stuff started happening, and we knew that was going to be it was going to be coming down the pike, and all of a sudden I stopped advertising them. And to answer you guys' questions, it's because that was coming down the pike. I eventually just decided, you know what? I think there's actually a lot of potential for these 2 ideas to be able to make some money. So that's actually when I started making the decision of like, okay, the content that I provide for YouTube is going to be a hobby, and all of the other stuff that I do, like the podcasts and the RSS feeds, like the podcast will go to RSS feeds, and this other stuff will go into other formats. In particular, the one that I was actually going to do that's being brought to other video formats, I actually thought about doing Facebook for it, and when it's ready to go, I'll announce it. But the other one actually got repurposed. And is actually going to be, I have no problem spoiling this, it's going to be an RSS feed exclusive for this podcast. So at that point, like if you are not subscribed to the RSS feed, you will miss out on this, because I'm not bringing it here. Like I'm not going to be putting a bundle on YouTube to be able to do it. No, it's never coming here. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right here and now, guys. It doesn't matter if things got better or worse. It's not coming to YouTube. It would go somewhere else, specifically to the RSS feed, because that's where it would matter and where it could do the most good for that. So that's just the way I'm looking at it, is that the content that is on YouTube, it's staying on YouTube. That's the way it goes. If things get better, great. I have no faith that they will. like everybody on the panel has said, I just have no faith that'll happen. And all the stuff that I think is more marketable and more worthwhile, it's going somewhere else to be able to be advertised there. So that being said, I think that pretty much covers the answer. Unfortunately, no, we don't consider ourselves YouTubers. Sorry. We don't wear the company t-shirt. We don't go to the company softball game. We don't sit back and talk at the water cooler. Sorry. This is the way it goes. I don't think anybody really has that loyalty anymore. Even the people who have friends within YouTube.
Yeah, especially it doesn't help that anytime you have to use the water cooler, you have to sit through 3 ads.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. And they're all 20 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. So if people want to be able to contact us to ask questions about our opinions or give feedback on our opinions or check out the awesome content that we provide, Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do they do that with you?
Find me on YouTube. Shadow Blazer 3000 is my channel, and I do anime-related content. I just put up a video just listing off all my favorite anime ending themes this time, and I'll try and get a review going at some point. I need to quit being so lazy. And if you want to follow me on social media, because Lord knows you can't depend on YouTube subscription feeds anymore, follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort. It's also the best place to reach me if you want to ask me something directly. Don't try me on Discord. Don't try me on Google. I more likely won't see your message because I'm rarely there.
Okay. And also, if you guys want to check out some content that both me and Alex have provided, we just barely put up our movie vlogs for Deadpool 2 and Solo: A Star Wars Story. So you guys can check that out. Stephen Romney, how do people get a hold of your content and contact you?
Well, you can find me under my handle, Studio Ghost Utah. That is my handle both on YouTube and on Facebook. It's very late, so that's why I'm tired. I flubbed it. But yeah, my handle on YouTube and Facebook, because I plan on uploading to both. I just need to actually sit down and make another video one of these days. And that is my handle, Studio Ghost Utah. You can also find me on Twitter, and similar to Alex's sentiment, if you want to ask me stuff or actually, engage me directly and not send stuff to Adam on a regular basis, you can reach me on Twitter at Romney Reviews. And as for this...
Sorry, just in case, I'm not sure I actually said my Twitter handle. It's at AlexJShort on Twitter.
You did.
Oh,
You
okay.
did, but
I couldn't remember if I did or not.
Yes.
I got on a bit of a tangent, so I might have lost something.
Yeah, so he is Alex J. Short. I am Romney Reviews. And as for this week's Romney's recommendation, it's a video I was watching before we hopped online tonight. And it is also by the YouTube channel Fight Commentary Breakdowns, a channel that I've recommended before. And it's an interview with a 4th-generation master of Bagua Zhang, which is a style of Kung Fu. And it's fascinating because this master goes into detail about how too many Chinese martial arts are getting away from the actual combat applications of their styles in favor of focusing on strictly the traditional and the formal aspects. And it kind of even pointing out the problem of how a lot of martial arts schools, and this is something we see with martial arts schools in the US, where they teach you the techniques, but you don't actually spar and you don't actually learn how to apply those techniques in real life. And so this interview is very fascinating. The creator of the Fight Commentary Breakdowns is translating it as he's watching. It's very interesting stuff where you see this Bagua practitioner saying a lot of stuff that you normally would hear from a lot of Western MMA fighters about the martial arts, and him basically calling out the BS that has happened with Chinese martial arts over the past few, decades. And so that's this week's Ronnie's recommendation, is this interview with this 4th-generation Bagua master pointing out the problem with Chinese Kung Fu in today's day and age. And it'll be up on my Twitter if you want to find the link. And yeah, I'm going to stop talking before I ramble for 30 minutes.
All right. And if you guys want to be able to follow me on, first of all, you're on my YouTube channel, so please check out the content that I provide there. This week has actually been kind of sparse, but that's just because I've been working on podcast content for the most part, trying to get everything up to speed as much as I possibly can. Because unfortunately, as much dedication and time goes to this podcast, the other 2 podcasts kind of have to suffer in that regard. That's why stuff doesn't happen so actively with them. But please check out the content that I actually do provide. I do WoW content. I do game reviews. In fact, a bunch of game reviews are ready to come down the pike. So you guys can look forward to that. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dirac2326 and see all of the content that I provide when it's ready to go and when it's up and running. That's also where I do advertise a lot of the podcast stuff and a lot of the newer ideas that are going to be coming soon. And if you want to support the podcast, the first way that we ask you to do so is by going to geekyweek.podomatic.com and signing or subscribing to the RSS feed. Now, do you actually have to go to podomatic.com? No, not necessarily. If you're an iPhone user, you can go to iTunes and look up GNRO podcast. And for the same, for Android users, you can go to Google Play and look up the very same and be able to get the RSS feed there. And that's our first thing that we would recommend you guys do, to support the RSS feed so that we can keep this going and be able to keep the lights on and continue to innovate with it, because like I've kind of spoiled already, we actually have some new and unique ideas that are going to be coming strictly to the RSS feed, so you guys can enjoy that. In particular, like I don't know, a lot of people ask me about YouTube, like, when is the Infinity War thing going to be coming here? It's not. The Infinity War review that we did is strictly for the RSS feed. So if you want to be able to see what we thought about Avengers Infinity War, that's where it is, and that's where it's going to stay. Unfortunately, YouTube guys, it's not coming here. So first and foremost, support the RSS feed at geekyweek.podomatic.com. You can also support us on social media under the exact same tagline, Geeky NRO, and you can look it up on Facebook and Twitter. And for those, you'll get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stuff we'll be talking about, any particular events that we actually want to get you guys' opinions on. All that fun stuff will be available there, including RSS feed updates. So that's going to be happening. And in fact, if you aren't already subscribed to the RSS feed, a bunch of stuff actually went up this week, so go and check that out. And then also, if you want to submit stories or submit feedback or submit ideas, you're more than welcome to do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for your continued love and support for the podcast. We really do appreciate it. And we will be back maybe next week. I'm not sure. If the E3 stuff happens early and we're talking Friday night, I might have to pull out there. But if not, then we will definitely be back the following week for post E3 coverage, as well as some other stories of the week. And yeah, we will be back for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions. So for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we'll see you guys then.